what was I saying? If you're here, that's happened to you. And like I said in the short form video, it has happened to all of us. Brain shuts down, brain shuts off, brain takes a holiday randomly in the middle of your presentation. Please know that it happens to everyone. It really does. I'm Jan Bailey. I'm the Contagious Communicator, and I'm delighted that you're here. And I hope that you will subscribe, because we talk about all things communication here. And in these longer videos, what we're going to talk about today, I'm very glad that you're here, because one of the things that we have to start to ask ourselves is, okay, this seems to be happening to me regularly, or this happens to me routinely. And is there rationale? Yeah, for sure, there's rationale. Are there excuses that we can share and tell ourselves that why this is happening? Yeah, for sure we can. But what I want to talk a little bit about, I want to talk a lot about it actually, is what is the belief system that's driving the behavior? I'll say it again. What is the belief system, your belief system, that is driving this behavior? Because if it's happening more than occasionally or randomly, there is something else running underneath. It's not really a memory problem, it's a belief system problem or challenge that you and I are going to talk a little bit about today. So I encourage you to subscribe. So we talked in the short form video about the cost. Well, and the cost from my perspective of this happening is really about self. It really is. It's confidence. That's the ultimate cost here, is that you become very quickly, and I hear it with my clients all the time, I'm afraid to put up my hand. I'm afraid to volunteer to present. I'm afraid to deliver my findings. Why? Because I'm afraid I'll stand up there and in the middle of it, I'll forget where I was going. And so I've offered you some strategies to help. Just a quick overview, is my personal strategy. I use humor all the time. And you have to decide if that's comfortable when you're delivering in a particular room, if that's comfortable to you to laugh about it and say, oh, I've lost my focus here for a second. Or gosh, I was saying something brilliant and now it's gone. Whatever your sense of humor allows. You have to decide if that strategy works for you. The second strategy is the rewind and review. So you rewind back a few notches and you review or give a highlight reel of what it was that you've already delivered, what you've talked about, just the very, 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 very high level. And that will prompt your brain. It will trigger your brain to bring you in lovely color vision. It will bring you the next logical step in your presentation. So those are two really great strategies that work. And I hope you'll practice them. Now let's talk a little bit about the ultimate fix, because there is a thread that runs through here. And when I talk about belief systems, what I really mean, and I'll use these terms interchangeably, is belief system and operating system. Because we're all really comfortable with the notion of operating system. We really are. Our phone has an operating system that, good heavens, regularly seems to update. And it's updating bugs, it's updating and fixing things, it's updating stuff that I can't see. I don't know what it's updating, but my phone assures me that it's important that it does it. And so does my laptop, and so does yours. And so we're accustomed to the idea of an operating system that runs in the background. It's like the river underneath the surface of the earth, right? It's like this lovely little aquifer that's running under. And it's the belief system, the operating system, that drives the cool stuff that we see that comes out of our phone or out of our laptop. And so your belief system is exactly the same as that. It really is. You have downloaded, you have reinforced a series of belief systems about how the world behaves, about how you should behave within the world, about how the world behaves relative to you. And as you move through your life, you reinforce those belief systems. You create surroundings in the world and reactions and communication patterns and habits that tend to reinforce those belief systems until such time as you go, oh, that doesn't work anymore. There's a glitch. I can't load that belief. I can't load that app you would all of a sudden take a look at the hardware on your phone, or the software on your phone rather. And so that's what we're looking at here today, is we're looking at when, first of all, was the last time you actually looked at those belief systems and said, where does that come from? Or, does that still serve me? Or, is this really valuable for me? And I would say to you, probably not very often. It usually happens when maybe we enter into a new relationship or a new friendship and someone challenges the way we look at the world or we think about things. Then we go, where'd that come from? Or it happens at work when we are elevated to a new position. Maybe we've recently become a manager or a leader and we have to go, why do I react like that? Or, how come that bugs me? Or, how do I influence people differently? Now all of a sudden we have to look in the mirror, don't we? And this is what I want to help you and to encourage you to do, because really the foundation of communication is, first we must communicate with ourselves. We have to think, why am I doing that? Why am I saying that? Why is that coming out of my mouth? Why am I reacting in that way? Why am I not reacting in this way? All of those things are communication with yourself. And that's what I always say to people, is first you communicate with yourself. And so when you are standing in front of the room and you have a brain gap, your brain just says, on vacation, out of office alert, I am no longer here. I have no idea where we were going. If that's happening to you, what you and I want to do is figure out what's driving that behavior. Because if it repeats, there's a belief system that is supporting it. I'll say that again. If it repeats, and this happens to you frequently, or more often than you would like, you have a belief system that is supporting that behavior. Nobody likes to hear that, ever. But that's really what's happening. And your next question is, okay, that's really great, Jen. That's the thread. Okay, that's the thread. We're recognizing that there is a behavior. We now know that that behavior is supported or operated by a belief system. The next question says, well, okay, great. How do we fix that? Well, first we have to see it. Okay, so congratulations. You're here and you're thinking, okay, maybe there's more to this than I thought there was. And that is the first step. So congratulations, welcome, you're here. The next step is to ask yourself better questions. Because usually what happens is we retreat. So we're in a situation where our brain goes, there's nothing there. And so what do? Well, we shrink. We stop volunteering. We stop speaking up. We stop taking any perceived risks, because we are afraid, and this is exactly what my clients tell me, I'm afraid to speak up. I'm afraid to volunteer. I'm afraid I'll look stupid. I'm afraid I will look like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm afraid, fill in the blank, whatever that blank is for you. And so you need to ask yourself a better question. Don't ask why. Why is this happening to me? Because I guarantee you the results of the answer of the question, the answers will be not great. They'll be because you're stupid, because you don't know your material, because you're not prepared. None of that is helpful. None of that is helpful. So stop asking why. What we need to ask is how, what would it take? And those will help us excavate a little bit and see if we can uncover what's going on underneath that behavior. The other thing that is very interesting to do, if you are inclined, is to take a little walk down memory lane. And some people are quite happy to do this, and other people not so much. So if it's something that you're comfortable with, I would say to you, okay, when is a time that I remember? Or when this happens to me, this gap, what does that remind me of? What situation can I remember having previously been in, could have been 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, doesn't matter, that reminds me of this scenario. What was going on? What was happening? And see if you can draw some connections, some parallels between those two things. You might be surprised at how relevant some of that old information is. Because what you're going to find out is we repeat behaviors, we repeat patterns, we just keep repeating them. We just don't update our operating systems. And so you're doing something that may have served you at one time, and now it doesn't any longer. And so you have to look backward and say, okay, that worked in that scenario, but it doesn't work now. Am I ready to let that go? Yes or no? And sometimes that's all it takes. It really does. It's just an awareness that says, oh, good grief, this isn't making sense to me. It's no longer valuable. I'm done with that. So I encourage you to do that. The next thing I would ask you to do in the realm of better questions is, can you say to yourself, what is actually happening here? So my brain is stopping me from speaking my opinions. My brain is stopping me from speaking my knowledge. My brain is stopping me from speaking my findings. And that might seem strange to you because you think, well, why is my brain doing that? That makes no sense. You're right. It makes no logical sense, but we're not talking about logic here. We're talking about belief systems. And so if we go back or out maybe a little broader and we think, okay, what would be the value of that? So if someone stopped me from speaking, what would be the reason for that? My opinions are not valid. Perhaps my opinions are not valued. My opinions are not relevant. My opinions are not of interest. My information is not of interest. And now, if we start to look at it that way, you might start to hear the fear in that. So if in this scenario, I am afraid that my audience does not value my opinion, my audience is not interested in my findings, my audience does not feel that I am or my opinions are valid, in order to protect me from sharing those opinions, what would my brain do? Are you getting this? My brain would just go, let's not speak about it. And so I'm left with nothing going on. And so I'm not sharing my opinion. Now you would say to me right now, hopefully, Jen, that makes no sense. And I would say, yeah, you're right. But that's what's happening. Your brain is protecting you from your fear that your opinions are not worth anything, are not worth hearing. And that, my friends, is not a delivery problem. That's a belief system self-worth problem. And so if you can begin to take a look at, I am not the same person that I was last week, let alone 5, 10, 20 years ago. And here are the ways that my opinions, my research, my findings is valid, is valued, is interesting. Now we can begin to use logic to help shift the belief system. And that's the goal. So we have to bring it to light. We've got to find the fear. We've got to find the fear that says, I am not, fill in the blank, enough. And once you get to that, and if you just ask the question, I believe my opinions are not worthy enough, and you hear that belief system that says, oh, that feels true. Now you've got something to work with. This is an excellent excavation and a very positive moment. And I know it's hard to see that sometimes, but remember, if you can uncover the operating system that says, I am not enough, because that's what this is about. This is about believing that my opinions are not enough. And if my opinions are not enough, I am not enough. And that begins this vicious cycle. So, 2 layers. Absolutely begin with the fixes, the rewinding and the humor, whatever strategies you can use to keep yourself moving and going forward in your presentations and keeping you presenting, putting your hand up. That's very important. And the second thing is, do a little digging, do a little excavating. I guarantee you, you'll be glad you did, and I guarantee you it will help you become a much more contagious speaker. And that is always the goal, a much more contagious communicator. Always be clear, always be confident, and above all, be you. We'll see you next time.